Oh, it's because it's not.
Some clothes.
It's because it's not done yet. Oh, is it?
Says live.
There we go.
Still it's close. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's not that close. Seems at home, I guess.
I just look brighter today.
Well, because I have the light there, likely.
Not any smarter. I just look brighter.
Let's wait and see if anybody joins.
A few minutes yet.
We had some people there.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Tristledon. Hey, Diana. Wow. That's one of my tooth. All right. There's something in my tooth. Not very professional, but I got something in my tooth that's bugging me. Okay. I feel like we're both tired today or something. I'm tired anyway.
My eyes are burnt from staring at the TV for the last. Today's Tuesday. All week last week. Sometimes I know that having a TV as a monitor is great because it's just freaking huge and I can sit back and look at it, but sometimes it's a little bit much.
Anyway, when you're there, say hello. If you watch the replay, let us know you watched the replay. We're going to give it
Minute.
another couple minutes, and then we will start. Do you have anything to say?
Do I?
I'm asking.
Oh. Yes,
Yeah.
I appreciate sentiment, but I usually don't have anything to say. It's going to be a good topic, though, I think. Not something I know a whole lot about, but from what I understand, this is a
Thanks, Mindy.
male bashing topic, but whatever.
No, it isn't.
Just trying to create some controversy here, get some people viewing.
If we wanted to do male bashing, we would not invite you to go.
Well, it's rude to do it behind my back. You are my wife, after all. That's not very nice.
No, I'm talking male bashing in general. We could do it and just do it. That's just rude. Invite you to come and do what you hear. Male bashing. Nobody said Kevin bashing. They said male bashing.
Yes, but
which involves Kevin.
I can speak for all men. I am manly.
Anywho, let's see. We got another minute. So this is actually a topic that was given to us by somebody last week. I actually screenshotted her conversation. So I'm going to read that first, and then we'll stem the conversation off of that. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay, so it's 3 o'clock, so we'll start. So, hello, everybody. Again, if you're there, say hello. We show like 7, 8 people watching us. So when you're there, say hello. Let us know who you are. And if anything comes up as we're going through the topic, any questions, any comments, any concerns, feel free to type them in the comments, and we will address them as we go. What else? If you watch the replay, let us know you watch the replay. Okay.
I think Mindy likes my hat.
No, she's talking about my headwear for sure. Okay, so this is what came in last week. My partner and I have been having a debate on exercise and days of rest. He works out 7 days a week for an hour, usually 15 minutes on the treadmill and 45 on weights, and rarely has a rest day unless we are on vacation and he can't get to the gym or he's sick. I am in the mindset that you need rest periods between workouts so your body can repair itself. His reasoning for it being okay to work out every day is that he works different muscle groups every day, so the other days, the muscles he's not focusing on during the workout will be getting the rest it needs. That makes sense to me too. So now I'm feeling like I'm not working out enough, but any more than 4 days a week and I get burnt out and don't want to work out at all. During my workout, I may be working 3 to 4 different muscle groups where he may be focusing on 2, so I feel like 4 is enough. He's not suggesting I work out anymore and said that he is proud of me for showing up, but I can't help feel like I'm not doing enough. Unfortunately, I am not that person who loves to work out. I do it because it's healthy for me. It makes me feel good about myself. Whereas he loves to work out, which to be honest pisses me off some days, LOL. So how do I change my mindset of thinking I'm not doing enough? And what are your thoughts on working out 7 days a week versus 4 or 5? You want to start?
I could start.
Go.
basically, I'm just going to be parroting what you said on our walk the other day, though.
That's fine.
Um, there's
Hey, Julie.
there's a lot of ways of looking at this, and I think the biggest one that you looked at, or I think the first thing to come to mind when you talked to me about this was the fact that you don't think that you're working other muscle groups when you're focusing on other muscle groups. So those muscles aren't actually getting the rest you think they are. Is one thought process. The other one that we talked about this morning, I think, to another path to go down, is what are your goals when you're working out, and where are you in your workout regime? Like, are you a beginner, intermediate, or advanced? And I think the last thing that really stuck with you on our walk was that rest is necessary.
So I personally think that there's a lot to unpack in this specific in this specific conversation for numerous reasons. One, we can talk about the difference between a male and a female. And while a male and a female training regimen can be the same to some extent in terms of exercises and reps and rep ranges and sets and everything like that, a woman's physique and a woman's reaction to certain things can be different because of our hormones, because of PMS, because of periods, because of menopause, all of that wonderful fun stuff.
We have those too.
Yeah.
By proxy.
We also can talk about the fact, as what Kevin said, which is we have to look at, when we're looking at it, we have to look at overall goals. We have to look at how long a person has been training. We have to look at what is this person training. So 7 days a week of training, as in strength focused training for 7 days, is different than, say, 3 to 4 days of training with cardio or light activity on other days. Some people consider all of that still training 7 days, but the two are not one and the same. The other thing we have to look at is the necessity of progressive overload in workouts if you're training to improve. If you're training to improve body composition, if you're training to improve strength, if you're training to improve muscle mass, if you're training to improve, if you're training for fat loss, body composition, different things, all of that needs to be looked at. What are your goals? Like you said, beginner versus advanced. What was the other thing you mentioned?
Well, that too, but also one of the things that you brought up within that aspect of how are you training, are you using the same weight week over week over
yeah, so
week?
So the answer to the question is yes, rest is a requirement for a training protocol. However, there is a lot of stuff that can be looked at and assessed. So the first thing that in relation to this specific topic or this specific question, the things that I would look at are, what is your significant other training for? What's his purpose behind his training regimen? Is he only training for his mental and physical health, in that he's not after strength improvements, he's not after body composition changes, he's not after fat loss, he's not after muscle gain. He's just getting it up in the morning, and it's part of his natural routine to go downstairs, work out for 15 minutes on the treadmill, work out for 45 with weights, move on, and he breaks it out by body part. If that's all he's training and that's what he's used to, he's not likely implementing progressive overload. He doesn't care about how quickly his body adapts or if it has adapted, and this is what he does and this is how he does it. If your husband is training to change body composition, improve strength, improve muscle endurance, improve muscle mass, or anything like that, he needs rest. He needs to allow his body to adapt to a certain program and have rest implemented in between, so that progressive overload is implemented in his workout enough to provide the stimulus it needs to grow and improve.
Yeah, because otherwise without rest it won't do that.
Your body, your muscles are ripped and torn in the gym through progressive overload. The only way to improve a workout program and to improve strength and body composition, all those things, is through a progressive overload. If you're not including those things in your training, then the rest won't be as,
beneficial.
No, necessary. You need the rest, but the rest won't be as necessary, because if I was talking to this lady's husband and she was sitting in front of me and we were debating this topic, I would specifically ask the goal, number one. And if the goal is some sort of change, then I would argue that that husband is not driving hard enough in his workouts, not implementing progressive overload accurately, and has been following the same programming the exact same way for too long, and thus his body has completely adapted, and now he no longer implements progressive overload, doesn't need rest because he's never giving it a new stimulus. He's never giving it a new stimulus. If I were to work out at a strength training program and push as hard as I do in each workout, there would be no way I could work out 7 days a week.
Right.
So there's that. Then there's the other side of the coin, which is if you're doing 3 to 4 strength training days, and the other 3 days of the week or 4 days of the week, depending on what you're doing strength training days, you're using to go for a walk, to maybe do some light cardio, that is totally okay. Your rest days doesn't mean you have to be a complete sloth and just lay around on the couch and watch Netflix. You can go for a walk. You can aim for a certain number of steps. You can go for a nice leisurely bike ride. You can do all those things. Rest days don't necessarily mean that you have to be sitting around with your legs up or your feet up, sorry. So there's that. The other thing that I think we should also point out is that you should never compare yourself and where you are to somebody else's progress or somebody else's journey. I can see the reason for questioning these things. I like these debates between husband and wives because Kevin and I have had similar debates as well through different things.
Well, that's what you're calling it?
You're a beginner, for instance, and he's probably quite advanced. So that's not comparing apples to apples. That's whatever. Right. That's not comparing apples to apples. So you're questioning whether your 3 to 4 days a week is enough when, number one, consistency always has to be the factor that's considered first.
And I think that's something that beginners feel an awful lot is the fact that they don't think they're doing enough.
Yeah. And the other thing we have to consider in everything that was written here, we have to consider consistency, number one. What am I going to be consistent with? It's written right in the question that after so many days, any more than 4, she feels too burnt out to continue. So that's a red flag that no more than 4 should be implemented because consistency will go down. Yeah. Second of all, biofeedback always needs to be considered. How's your sleep? How's your rest? How's your recovery? All of those things need to be considered before you add any extra work, any extra days of the week. And then where your level is, as an advanced weight training person, as an advanced workouter, whatever you would call me, I don't work out 7 days a week. I move 7 days a week, but what I can be most consistent with and what's worked really well for my recovery is 4 to 5 days, and most often it's 4. I usually choose a 4-day a week workout program. And then on the other days, it's a walk. Sometimes it might be a run or something like that, but that's what we do. So don't get caught up in comparing yourself to somebody who's more advanced to you, or even somebody really who's on the same journey as you, because consistency has to be the number one. If you're not being consistent, you're not going to see any progress regardless. So consistency needs to be considered first and foremost. When I ask my clients, where do you see yourself being able to fit? How many workouts a week can you consistently see? I always say, this is not the time to be optimistic. This is the time to be realistic, because it's way easier to add on than it's going to feel like to take away. It's way better to start lower and then to work up to more if we feel that's necessary. But you can implement progressive overload without even adding more days of the week. You can implement progressive overload by increasing weight, slowing down your movements. The volume of reps and sets and all that stuff gets jiggled if you're following a specific program. And that's the other thing to consider here. When you're debating with your husband or your significant other about workouts and rests and whatever, we have to consider, is your husband's programming coming from a coach, or is your husband has he been doing this long enough that he knows how to program for himself? That's fine. But how often does he change up his routine and switch up his, because there's a fine line between switching it up too often where it changes every single week versus staying on a program too long. You can stay on a program too long where that adaptation now has happened and you're doing very little for your body because you keep following the same routine. So as an example, because Kevin and I started new programming today, and Kevin usually follows a similar routine as I do in the gym. We just finished a very high volume, like 5 to 6 sets type volume of what I would classify as like a full body style workout. We did that for 16 weeks. Today, we moved back into more of what we call the bro split, which is today was legs, then we'll do chest tomorrow, and then we'll have a rest day, and then we'll do back, and then we'll do like a total body kind of focus. And that every so often switching that up so that your adaptation doesn't become too much is also important. So switching workouts up too often is not good, but always sticking with the exact same routine, doing the exact same movements, not increasing your weight, not challenging yourself in the gym is also not good. So that has to be addressed. But muscles are ripped and torn in the gym, and they only repair and grow and get stronger and change with rest and sleep. That's the bottom line. So rest days are important. They are a necessary part of the process, but like I said, there's so much to unpack there, which we already talked about.
Right.
Like his level, where he's at, how long he's been doing that, how is his program designed by him, is his program designed by somebody else, how often does he switch up his programming.
So if you got somebody who's not doing progressive overload but's working out 7 days a week as a form of movement and what have you, would you not just call that maintenance to some degree?
Yeah, basically there wouldn't be any, and I don't like classifying if you look at training protocols, they are designed for like specific goals, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, or whatever. But at the same time, there's zero difference between a fat loss workout and a muscle building workout. The difference is the main thing is that you're implementing progressive overload as you go through your process. Even in fat loss, you should be getting stronger. Even in fat loss, you should be implementing progressive overload. All of your results in terms of change to your body come from nutrition. Even in muscle building, even in a muscle building phase, your calories still need to be a surplus versus in fat loss, your calories need to be a deficit. So that's where those kind of changes come from. So yeah, you classify it as maintenance because if progressive overload isn't being implemented, chances are he's not seeing significant change in strength either. But there's no significant changes there. It's just going through the routine to keep up with the fact that this benefits his mental and physical health, which is my guess what's going on there. Somebody did mention though under this post when I talked about what we were going to talk about, and this was kind of, I will say, a fear or a comment on, well, if you implement rest breaks and then one day becomes 3 days, becomes 4 days, and then all of a sudden you're out. Mm-hmm. And there's that fear of, if I don't work out every day now that I'm in a routine, I'm going to stop for rest one day, and then I'm not, and then this is my pattern where all of a sudden I'm yada yada.
Yeah.
And
that's where you got to change. That's where the discipline has to come in, and the commitment has to come in for your consistency.
I think that there's a couple of things. So what I replied to this lady when she mentioned it actually, and I think that there are a couple of things. There's people expect that willpower and discipline will be natural, or that willpower and discipline and motivation, or willpower and motivation are just things they should have when they decide that they're going to do something. And more often than not, willpower and motivation shouldn't actually be relied on, period, to do something.
They'll leave you hanging.
So the thing is that when you start something, and let's just say the workout protocol only calls for 3 days a week because you're easing in, you don't want to take on too much too soon, you don't want to burn out. The goal is to keep everything really simple so that you don't burn out and quit. But the other thing that to remember is that with clarity and with focus and with understanding, an all or nothing mentality is extremely good, The mind is extremely good at saying, well, if you take a rest day, that means you fucked up. And now you have to stop everything and you're going to quit. You have to build self-discipline and self-trust. You have to believe and tell yourself that it's possible, that you aren't going to quit this time like you have all the other times, because the story you tell yourself actually does really make a difference. So if you come into something like this and tell yourself that, well, if I have a rest day, that's it, I'm all screwed up now, then that's what's going to happen. Whereas if you tell yourself, okay, this is the protocol, this is why this exists, you get the education, you get the clarity, and you understand your patterns and stories, it won't be easy, but you can work through them.
Yeah, and the other thing too, if you work out every single day, you do that for a while, you're going to end up forcing a rest day.
And that's the other thing. So there isn't such a thing as overtraining. And if you're implementing progressive overload in your workouts appropriately, if you're pushing yourself really hard in your workouts, you should need the rest. You should not be able to work out in the gym with weights 7 days a week and not feel like you need a rest day. There is a such thing as overtraining. Very few people ever get there, but there is a such thing as it. So you need to be mindful that the rest itself is important, and you need to teach yourself that the rest is just as important as the rest of it. Julie's question, how often would you say a workout routine should be changed? 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It depends. It depends on the individual. It depends on beginner, intermediate, or advanced. What I usually do for clients who are like in my longer term coaching, they get 3-4 week phases in one program. So 4 weeks at the same workouts, then they have a switch and they get another 4 weeks of workouts, and they get a switch of another 4 weeks of workouts. And that's 3 different blocks of one training program. So 12 weeks, but it's 4 week phases. Then they would move into a totally new program that might look completely different. And again, usually I program 4 to 6 week phases, but you can go upwards of 8 to 10 or even 8 to 12 weeks before you would need a program switch. Me personally, I stay on the same program usually for 16 weeks. So you can go, I would say, anywhere from 8 to probably even upward of 20 weeks before you would before you really truly need a switch. I wouldn't go, as a beginner, I wouldn't go so far as 20, but as an advanced, you could definitely go as far as 20, and the reason for that is because as a beginner, you're still trying to understand what progressive overload looks like, whereas as a person who's advanced, I know how to implement progressive overload in my workouts all the time. So as a beginner, you're still trying to implement progressive overload, understand what it looks like and what it is. So when you switch your programming, you're programming every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks. Your programming is designed to make sure that you understand what progressive overload looks like.
Right. But
you get the thing, you're going to plug it in.
Right. With the thing that they have to understand, though, is that they're not doing the same workouts every day for 20 weeks. There's variations and changes in that.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
This program that we're doing now will be the exact same for 16 weeks. No, sweetie, it's right here on the floor.
It won't fit with me sitting there.
Oh. Okay. So, and the other thing that we always have to consider too is that, like, when you're sick, if you happen to get injured in some way, those things will be automatic requirements for rest. So if you don't implement rest days and stuff like that as you go through your process and start to get comfortable with those rest days, you're going to have a really, really, really hard time with unexpected rest days. Life is always going to throw curveballs. There's going to be basically no other way around it. There is no other way around it. Life is life. It's always going to throw curveballs. So it's extremely important to prepare your mind and your body for self-discipline, self-trust, and for taking the rest days when they're programmed in your protocol. And simply going for a walk and learning how to enjoy it. I mean, I'm like a lot of you. In the beginning, when I first started this journey, I was terrified of rest days. A lot of times I wasn't taking them. And if I was, it wasn't really rest. I was going for a hardcore run or something like that, even though it was supposed to be a rest day.
I love rest days.
So I think those things are important to remember as well, because I had a client message me this morning who is sick, flu, and she was freaking out. And so I had to tell her that, you have to understand that this doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means that you need to embrace the fact that you're not feeling well. You need to allow the rest, and you need to make sure that just because you're resting, it doesn't screw with all the other things that you need to show up for. So control the controllable in all moments. I personally love my rest days now too, but I didn't at one time. What else?
I don't know. Have we went through all of that already?
No, I need to go. I'm gonna go back and look.
So
let's just break it down. Her partner and I are having a debate on exercise and days of rest. So we covered the fact that men and women. So, your husband can also, or your partner or whatever, can also get away with in some cases, a man can get away with doing more, I don't know, I'm going to use this term,
physically demanding,
more hardcore things than a woman. So because of the way that our hormones work and the way that, we have all the things, sometimes our bodies need rest more than a man's will because of all the stuff. But I don't even need to explain all the stuff because all the women watching know all the stuff.
Well, men are utilitarian too. I mean, like, men were designed to be muscular, to be physically fit, to have to hunt and do battle. And
we do have all the things. I mean, come on, it's true. We have all the fucking things. The men have no fucking things.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
You
today?
said you have it by proxy.
No, that's not what I was talking about.
Oh, what then?
No, we won't go there. It was during the workout, but anyway.
Oh, right, yeah. You can tell him.
No, that's a little personal.
Okay. He works out 7 days a week for an hour, usually 15 minutes on a treadmill for him, and rarely needs a rest day. And then we talked about the fact that unless he's on vacation, and then there's a comment here about how he feels like when he doesn't work out, he's out of sorts. So some of it could be mindset on his part too, but some of it could also be that he's not specifically training for any specific goal like we talked about.
Right.
And it's more that, he's just protecting his mental and physical health. So for him, it's a natural part of his routine to get up, to go on the treadmill for 15 minutes, and then to strength train for 45 minutes. Maybe not even hardcore, just not necessarily either going through the motions. I'm sure he's training with intent to some extent, but he's doing it more for mental and physical health, not for any particular goal.
Right.
Which is a good place to be.
Yeah.
And then there's a difference between when you're training for the goal that we talked about. If you're training for body composition change, if you're training for strength gains, if you're training for muscle endurance or whatever the case might be, then the protocol of requiring rest is something that is a requirement at that point, because you need those things in order to be able to recover properly, to implement the things you need in the gym to be able to progress. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then, what else is written here?
I think actually now that you go through it all, I think everything that you need to talk about.
Oh, the only other thing that I think we should talk about is, so bro splits, or whatever you want to call it. So bro splits or bodybuilding splits or whatever, that's the term to refer to, is like legs on this day, chest on this day, or maybe chest and triceps on this day, back and biceps on this day, and maybe shoulders on another day, and then maybe core maybe sometimes core's on its own, sometimes it's with legs. So, and then there's a difference between, then there's like full body splits, or then there's like higher volume splits, lower volume splits. Anyway, there are numerous ways to program. Tons of variations. There's push-pull splits, tons of variations. When you're on a bro split, his justification is that if he does, say, chest on Monday, which is the typical bro beginner day of the week, is always chest. If he does chest on Monday, by the time he gets around to doing chest again, his chest has already recovered. To some extent, he's not 100% wrong, but we have to consider that each exercise you do requires stability of your full body. So your body is still tight and tense, and should be, in preparation for lifting something. So, like when you work your chest as a bigger muscle group, you also, in between all that, you work your shoulders, you work your triceps, you work your biceps a little bit, and you work your core. You work your core in almost every move when you're lifting weights.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing when you do back. When you do back, you work your shoulders, you work your upper and lower back, obviously. You work your biceps, triceps potentially, and your core. So, and you can even, in some instances among those things, also work your legs. Not in a hardcore fashion, but they're still almost like an accessory to all these other things. So even though he's not wrong in saying that his chest won't be worked as hard as it was on the Monday workout if he waited for the full week, he's still getting those muscle groups hit throughout the week in other various ways via accessory movements. So it's been proven in recent years that the bro split is not the ideal split anymore, but again, depending on the goal. So I still have workouts or training protocols where I still do bro splits on occasion, and they're implemented throughout, but it's not the only split that I ever follow. So a lot of people, they'll prefer, say, for instance, a push-pull split, or they'll prefer a bro split, or they'll prefer a full body split, and then they stay on that split forever and ever, amen. And the point of training and doing it properly is that you don't allow your body to adapt to anything enough, because you're implementing progressive overload as you go, and because your programming gets changed at the adequate times as you go to keep progress happening.
Right, and that's that was one of the other things you brought up the other day too, was that if you're not implementing those changes and you get used to just that one series of exercises, when you do switch to something different, it's holy hell.
And so this is also brought up today, which in the lady who commented about the post that we were talking about this today, she said, and then, so she takes a rest day and then it ends up in 3 or 4 rest days, and then she could be a week's rest days. And then she goes back to working out and she's sore as fuck, and then doesn't want to work out. So then again, takes extra rest. So what you have to realize is that soreness is number one part of the process, especially in the beginning, and every time a program changes or you introduce a new stimulus that your body hasn't had before or in a long time. So for instance, today, Kevin and I did a full-on leg day, and we haven't done a full-on leg day in at least 16 weeks because we had different programming. Tomorrow we will be sore.
Well,
well, we're already starting to feel it now. That's common. However, once we redo this workout again next week, we'll be less sore and probably not sore at all, and then that'll be all gone away. The only way to improve soreness and the only way to get rid of soreness is to actually be consistent. I've been training for a long time, usually 4 to 5 days a week for like 13 years now. And other than when a program changes or I introduce a new stimulus to my body that my body hasn't had in a long time or doesn't or rarely has, that's when I experience soreness. The only time I experience soreness. So out of 365 days a year, it might only be 5 or 6 days out of the whole year that I'm sore. So consistency is the key to letting go of getting rid of soreness as well. And exactly, Julie. So the change in that little bit alone, my clients also experience that. So every 4 weeks when their phase changes, they'll notice that they experience a little bit of soreness in that first change, sometimes a lot of soreness in that first initial week of the change, and then it eases off as you go through the process. That's all very common. It's consistency that creates, and self-discipline, of course, being able to continuously show up, that helps you eliminate the soreness. You need that adaptation to a certain extent.
Right.
What else? I feel like there's a lot to unpack, just not only in this question, but just overall, because this is a big topic. There's a lot that can be covered here.
Well, it's also a bit controversial too, because somebody that, like this, for instance, this gentleman that's working out the way he is, if he was to hear what we're saying, he might feel that we're attacking
Yeah,
his,
and
his,
I'm not.
his means of working out. But we've already said, throughout our conversation that if the workout routine is to maintain, health and fitness, mental fitness, and all that kind of stuff, then, and if that's what works for them, then that's fine. But if it's meant for gains and things like that, other purposes, not so much.
Yeah, I mean the thing that always has to be, if you're, let's just say your partner was working out 7 days a week like he is, and he was complaining because he wasn't getting results. Well, then we know that his goal is actually deeper than what he's actually doing in the gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if he's only showing up to, you said, improve mental and physical health, or to, stimulate mental, keep what he has, maintain, whatever the case might be, then what he's doing is perfectly fine for him.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't need to, if he's not sore, if his recovery is good, if he's, whatever, and he's happy, then that's fine. But as a woman who follows a 3 to 4 day protocol in the gym, who's looking for changes in physique, who's looking to build muscle, who's looking for fat loss, or whatever the case might be, and as a woman with hormones and all those wonky things that we have, then we can accept that 3 to 4 days is plenty. I have clients who have been with me for 3, 4, 5 years who are still only working out I shouldn't even say only, who are still working out 3 days a week. I don't have any clients who work out more than 4 days a week in terms of strength training. Right. They might still move, they might do some cardio and whatever on the other days, but I don't have any clients who I program for who work out more than 4 days a week.
And the other thing you can unpack with that, and I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier too, is like, so if there is changes to make, it could be something as simple as increasing the weight, or like you say, slow down the reps. Like it's quite entertaining when we were in Mexico and watching people who want to just come in and just go hard, spam and go hard. I mean, we watched one guy come in, didn't do no warm up, didn't do anything, walk in, picked up the heaviest weights on the rack, and did his workout. And then we met another fellow there that has his own gym. He lives in Ontario, and I watched him do his workout routine, and he wasn't lifting much weight. He wasn't lifting weight much heavier than what I was lifting, maybe one more size up or whatever. But it's only because they know that if your movements are slow and deliberate, you're going to get the same burn, the same fatiguing and everything else as if you were to go grab the heaviest weight in the room and start slamming it.
Right.
Right. So you don't have to do these massive changes, or you don't have to think that, because I'm doing this, I've got to make this drastic change. I got to go, instead of 10, I got to go to 15, or instead of 20 pounds, I got to double it. I got to be lifting 40 pounds to see my gains. There's lots of different little things that you could do, because you don't want to introduce too much too soon, and you don't want to cause injury and things like that by doing it.
The thing with progressive overload that people get confused in is that they only think in terms of weight or adding more. So adding more reps, adding more sets, adding more weight, or adding more days. But the truth of the matter is progressive overload is many things that don't just necessarily include adding more days, more weight, or adding more days, more reps, or more strength, or, adding more days, more reps, or more sets. If you have a program that is specifically designed by a trainer, I highly urge you not to be adding reps or sets to your training protocol. Your trainer has specifically designed that for you. Adding reps or sets goes against what they've designed. Please don't do that. If it's me or if it's somebody else, please don't. That said, you can implement progressive overload, and progressive overload is the key to changes in the gym. Okay, it's the key to getting stronger. It's the key to improvements in strength training overall. You need progressive overload, which means your body needs a stimulus, and you need to adapt to said stimulus, and then you need to introduce a new stimulus. So that could be adding weight, but more often than not, it can simply be improving your form, improving range of motion, and improving, slowing down your movements and not just going through the movements, being intentional with the movement, actually feeling the muscle that's supposed to be doing the work, do the work.
Right. When you slow down the movement, you increase time under tension. And when you increase time under tension, that's what actually works the muscle.
A muscle actually can only be changed through time under tension. It's the amount of time that muscle spends under tension that creates the difference in the muscle, that creates the stimulus. So, you can get then into more complicated protocols where you put a pause, or where you add additional range of motion by putting a step, or where you do, what we call 1 and 1.5 reps. Those kind of things are a little bit more advanced protocols, but they can still be done to implement progressive overload. Doing negatives, loads of things can implement progressive overload, but the main ones are slowing your movement down, making sure you feel and brace everything so that your form is properly, understanding how that all works. When you start to weightlift and when you start to improve mobility, which weightlifting will do, over time, your range of motion will improve. The joint, you will notice that the joint will be able to go through a greater range of motion because you've improved your mobility now with strength training. Strength training actually improves mobility, flexibility, and stability. So that will improve. So you can slow down your movements, you can focus on form, you can improve range of motion. Those 3 things alone are implementations of progressive overload. And then you can add weight as an additional one. And then as you go through, you can incorporate more advanced protocols, or you can, if you feel like you could be consistent with it, add a day to your week. Or, if you're getting training consistently or getting workouts consistently from a trainer, your reps and sets will change as you go through, again, as implements of progressive overload that are already done for you in your programming. So yeah. Progressive overload is another huge one. We could do like a whole topic just on progressive overload alone. I'm just reading the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it depends on what his results are that he wants to see, honestly. It sounds like he's an avid gym goer and probably knows what he's doing. So it might even be as simple as going from 7 days a week down to 5 and doing like a push pull legs as a program instead of just breaking out the row split. It could be as simple as adding progressive stimuluses for getting progressive overload properly. Could be, in his case, adding more sets and adding more reps. Those kind of things all make a difference. In terms of your next comment, and yes, they are all seeing results. Yes, they are, or majority of them are, who are consistent and are doing the thing that they need to do on 3 to 4 days a week. Personally, for me, I only work out strength train anyways 4 days a week. I used to be the person who did 7 days a week or 6 days a week of just like hardcore strength training. And honestly, I have way more results at like 4 to 5 days a week of strength training, and I haven't even done 5 days a week in a couple of years. But I have way more results, not just with consistency, but with how my body recovers and with my biofeedback, and with the implementation of being able to go harder in the gym in the 4 days than I was when I was doing 5 to 6. I'm seeing more results with less days, which is very, very common. And for people who have a hard time taking rest days, it's extremely common to want to do more and to be afraid to take the rest. And then once you start to overcome that mindset and actually take the rest, you actually see more progress on less days.
I remember that because that was, even before and after you competed. You beat the living shit out of yourself and got nowhere sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be a really cool thing. I think it would be a really cool topic one day if you got on alone and did coffee time based on your experience of me through my journey and how it affected you. Because a lot of women here probably have the exact same mindsets as I used to have. You have to go hardcore, you have to restrict, you have to do this. And we don't, as women, in that instance, understand how that affects the other people in our lives.
Yeah, well, I've when we've had certain
You've made certain
conversations,
comments.
yeah, when we've had certain topics that related to
Because,
those things going along, that's been pretty well explained.
I mean, Kevin and I have talked about it, but as an overall perspective, like when I think about some of the crazy stuff that I've done to get my body in shape for competition, for instance, and even prior to that, and all the ways that I tried to do things, and then what I went through post competition, and how I was, and how I was with food, and how I was with my body and everything, and how that would have affected him as my husband. We were married then, right? Yeah, as my husband. It's actually from my perspective, I didn't notice it until Kevin has said some things, until we had a conversation, or even some things that this is getting off this topic now, but
yeah, we beat that horse.
yeah,
so far.
But until we got onto this, you know, sometimes when we're doing this, you say certain things, and I forget that's where sometimes now I forget that's where I was, and I think as women who are hardcore on themselves, who really want changes, who are focused so much on their body image, focused so much on food, focused so much on this, and they're not really living life.
Yeah, well, that's just it. You were not living life. You were only living.
There's no balance.
You were living for results.
Yeah, let's say this. There's no balance and no freedom. I don't think that we, myself included, because obviously that's who we're talking about here, we don't understand how that affects the other people in our lives. And there is a balance. For me, one of the reasons why I do what I do is because I want to help women like you guys not experience the heartaches and heartbreaks that I've had through my journey. Really.
Yeah, well, and in some cases, just the lady that brought this question kind of was seeing it from a similar side. It's like, well, my husband's going, he's working out, he's working out 7 days a week and doing all this, and this, and it was intimidating to the effect that she felt it might be affecting her result if she didn't work out as much or as often as he does.
Right. So yeah, so that's, I think, that topic fairly covered, or probably more covered than even we needed to go. But it's an important topic because a lot of people have a really hard time with either taking rest or doing the exact opposite, which is having too much rest. You know what I mean? Like there's a really fine balance. And then there's also the fine balance between it's time for me to have a rest day versus
but I think what happens when you do
I'm lazy kind of thing. Am I just being lazy, or do I need the rest kind of thing?
Right, but I think what happens when you build a routine around 4 days a week, and you create that discipline and routine and structure, then it just happens.
It's when you create the discipline and structure, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's when you're originally starting it and you don't have the discipline, you don't have the self-trust, and you don't have the structure, that's where it can get really hard to implement and just do.
Yeah.
Because for somebody like me, I mean, I'm not always motivated by any means, but I just do.
Yeah, your workout routine for your week is not negotiable.
No, it's not something that I negotiate.
It may change day from day. Like you might swap Tuesday for a Monday or something like that.
Right.
But it don't matter what happens through the week, whether we're traveling or whether there's meetings or something happens throughout the week, appointments or whatever. All that happens is that workout just shifts from one day to the next. It still
happens. So instead of starting the week on a Monday, we might start the week on a Tuesday. Or if we normally start the week on a Tuesday and I have a bunch of stuff going on a Tuesday, we start the week on a Monday instead, or whatever. That's okay. It's changing around your schedule and having to change around your schedule is okay. It's also totally okay when you're sick or injured to rest. Mm-hmm. Like those are things that you don't have control over. But it's when you are not any of those things, and then you try and convince yourself that you're something like tired or too this or too that to do it, and technically speaking, you're really not. You need to implement discipline to create the self-discipline to just go and do it.
Yeah.
Don't think, just do, as is my famous saying.
Yes, and my 4 day a week workout is driven by. I don't need the discipline because.
Whoa. Okay.
Trust me. I hear about it if I slack off. And I mean, not in a way where it's ignorant or anything. It's just that you kind of feel bad.
Watch your P's and Q's.
You kind of feel you kind of feel bad.
Yeah, that's perfect, Janine. So that's the other thing is like if you give yourself time to sit down and think about it, your chances are you are not, or you're going to try and talk yourself out of it. If you don't give yourself the time to think about it, you just come home from work, you change immediately, you go get it done, voila, it's done, and now you feel accomplished because you've completed it and you have the rest of your evening. Or you get up first thing in the morning before you go to work. Lots of people do that too. And you get your workout done and you go off with your day, and then you come home and you have the whole evening to yourself. However you want to do it, however it works for you, doesn't matter. It's just showing up that really matters.
Right.
Yes, keeping him in check.
I thought you were going to say lies, because there's days where you woke up to me already being ready in my workout gear, even though we probably haven't worked out for hours.
Yeah.
So
He's gotten way better. Oh, sorry. A couple of years ago, Kevin didn't work out at all anymore. And last year, right?
Yeah, once I retired.
Yeah. Once he started working for me.
Retired.
He started working out with me. And, well, he basically just follows my programming now. And
I just follow your program.
Just follow my program. And we've done it consistently now for a year and a half, right? Roughly. Or you've done it consistently now.
Roughly a year and a half. And there's been some pretty good change.
Yeah, exactly, Maria. Get it done before your mind knows what you're doing. Because the minute your mind kicks in, it's so easy to talk yourself out of it. So just go do, and then you can clap for yourself. You did it, and then go about your rest of your evening or your day or whatever.
Yeah.
Anywho, that is it for us today, I think. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. We don't have a topic yet, so we'll
say that every week. Yeah,
I know.
To talk about.
But that said, if you have something, because last week after we shut down, I got a message with this topic right away. So if anybody has anything, feel free to reach out with the topic that you'd like us to talk about. Give us some ideas. We're open to whatever. I mean, if we don't know enough, if we don't know enough about it, I'll just tell you I don't know enough about that to talk about it.
Right.
But if we do know enough to have at least 30-minute chat and give you some information, we're happy to do it. So if you have any topics, if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, any concerns, questions, whatever, we can. Woohoo! Christina, nice. I think that's the lady we met in Tim's.
Was it?
Last week on the way out of town, I'm pretty sure. You're welcome, Maria. Anyway, have a super great week, and we'll see you here. Yeah, we'll see you same time, same place next week. Let us know if you have anything you want us to talk about. Okay, bye-bye.